Welcome back. Now, let me continue to the question number 2 of 100. And the question is, what exactly is suffering? Suffering is a very broad experience. At the very fundamental level, it is a state of mind that is not at ease with whatever is being experienced. Or in English, it can be called dis-ease, disease. That means there is unease somewhere deep behind the back of the mind. There's something lacking. Something is not right. There's something missing. And that kind of unsettledness, a discord, a friction, loss of sync with the nature of reality. Yep. At the fundamental level. Because we can say death is suffering, pain is suffering, loss of health is suffering. And these kind of things are mundane, everyday experiences which are general manifestation of suffering. But if these experiences were like layers of onion, when you peel the layers of onion, you will successively refine, you'll find more and more underlying regions for those sort of experiences. And at the very fundamental level, there is very, very subtle kind of discord, subtle kind of unsettledness. And that is that kind of not being harmony with the nature of reality, not being in tune with this universe, not being in tune with this, all these phenomena. Yeah. So as soon as you have that sort of come to misaligned with what is been experienced, and the mind experiences those phenomena, and in that experience, in that reflection, instead of being in that complete harmony, in complete synchronicity, if you start to kind of project or start to opinionate, start to conceptualize, start to create some sort of ideas around that sort of what is being experienced, that starts to generate what is called friction. That friction, that resistance is what the Buddha called dukkha. Du means negative. Du means it can be bad. And kha means ease. Yeah. So in English, it can be called dis-ease. So what is this implying is that there is a we can imagine and take those layers of onions out, and if we to consider them as some sort of, if we start to consider them as some sort of overhead, or if we consider those experience as some sort of load or some sort of burden, then we can see that the state of unease will disappear when all those layers are taken out. That state of emptiness, that state of being completely devoid of phenomena, devoid of experiences, that kind of a state is what the Buddha called the complete voidness, complete emptiness, which may not have been understood correctly by different philosophies. Rather than seeing the phenomena as some sort of burdens on the clarity and the freedom of mind, some philosophers, some later traditions, some of these uh, new types of thinkers, they have created what is called the proliferation, and they philosophized too much on these kind of experiences because they have not experienced how these kind of the fabrication, the proliferation of mind and the friction and the resistance and misalignment creates so much of discord, disharmony, this imbalance and burden. Yeah. So that is that if we were to sum them up into one experience, then Buddha chose the word of dukkha, and English term is suffering. So why do these things arise? Buddha's definition is, if we look at the fundamental definition of suffering, these suffering do arise because our tendency to inherit, to be endowed with, to accumulate, that because our nature to acquire, to amass those experiences and be identified with, then we start to bundle them up. We start to identify and make them as our portfolio, our identity, our ego, our personality. So, and this is why the way to be free of suffering is to let go. And how do we experimentally test this state of suffering? Is Buddha has given many uh, ways to validate this state of freedom. And I will give some example here. Take, for example, what is suffering? So, having to feel is suffering. Yeah. So, now I know this kind of uh, statement does not make immediate sense. Why this feeling is suffering? No, this feeling has got all the pleasure. This feeling is, and many of my friends may not agree. Why is feeling suffering? But we need to look at the feeling, the process of feeling, whether it is a feeling of gratification, feeling of pleasure, feeling of, let's say, accomplishment, all these kind of gain through these senses. So, for example, living in a big house or driving in a luxury car. So all these feelings will do is they will give you an extra boost, extra gain in your senses. Instead of living in a small apartment, you are living in a mansion. Yeah. So all you're doing is simply adding that um, extra thing for eyes to take delight in. Yeah. So the same will apply to all the senses. And it all boils down to feeling. So your feeling is giving that sense of uh, pleasure and happiness. But the thing is that this feeling, whether it is feeling to give that sort of pleasure or feeling that can turn the other side, that will manifest as excruciating pain in terms of having to settle in a losing your house, not being having to walk instead of driving in a luxury car. All these sort of things are still within the domain of feeling. So the Buddha completely went to the root of all these sort of phenomena and found out that as long as you are dependent on the feeling, as long as you need that sort of injection of feeling to keep you going, then you are never going to be free from suffering. As long as you have to feel, as long as you have to be dependent on feeling, you will never be free from suffering. So the same will apply, it can be even the state of mind. Why do we have to think? Why do we have to have that sort of thinking in terms of great, that kind of success and kind of very, very lofty uh, state of mind, and a state of misery and state of dissatisfaction born in the mind. So as long as you have got those phenomena that are tied with those six senses, and you have to, if you don't know how to be free of those sense experiences, then there's no way out from the suffering. So if you want to be free from suffering forever, then you need to find a way out of being not dependent on those feelings, on those phenomena, yeah, and those experiences. So being free from those feelings, being free from those consciousness, being free of those contact, being free of uh, sight, sound, taste, touch, and mental conceptualization. So what the Buddha is pointing that there is another form of freedom which is not dependent on all these sensory experiences. So it's a very, very radical approach which has never been experienced in other ways, and only way to experience this freedom that is not dependent on anything in this universe, in this cosmos, in this realm of body and mind. Only way to be free from suffering forever is to be free of this phenomena by letting go, by being devoid of this phenomena. And that is where the deepest truth of our existence lie. So this is about suffering, and hopefully I will not be needing to expand this further, because those things about the freedom will come in my future exploration of those questions. For now, I will conclude about the suffering here. Thank you very much.